Joining us for this insightful discussion on the topic of spiritual to geopolitics are Mr. Anand Ranganathan, scientist and author, a maestro in the field of science and literature. Mr. Anand Ranganathan's intellect transcends boundaries. His unique ability to weave together scientific principles and literary finesse promise to illuminate our minds today. The second panelist that we'll be having is Mr. Tehseen Poonawalla. He's an entrepreneur, columnist, and a television personality. A multifaceted personality, Mr. Tehseen Poonawalla has made a mark not only in the business world, but also as a perceptive columnist and a dynamic television personality. His insights into the intersection of spirituality and geopolitics are sure to be enlightening. Our third panelist is Mr. Rahul Shivshankar, the consulting editor at Network 18. A stalwart in the world of journalism, Mr. Rahul Shivshankar brings a wealth of experience and acumen to our discussion. As a consulting editor at Network 18, he offers a nuanced perspective on the intricate dynamics between spirituality and geopolitics. Our fourth panelist is Mr. Ramneek Singh Mann, who will be offering a unique military perspective to us here sitting in the panel today. Bringing a unique and invaluable perspective to our panel, Mr. Ramneek Singh Mann, with his rich military background, will shed light on the geopolitical landscape from a vantage point that is both distinctive and crucial. Ladies and gentlemen, as we prepare to delve into this insightful discussion, I invite you to open your minds to the diverse perspectives our esteemed panelists are about to share. Without further ado, let us welcome Mr. Anand Ranganathan, Mr. Tehseen Poonawalla, Mr. Rahul Shivshankar on the stage.
Okay, does it work? Okay, very good. So, these three intelligent people, of India, and I'm the one, Modi ji said that Atmanirbhar. So I had no time to find anyone for the moderation, so I thought, okay, I can do everything, let me do it. So I took the privilege, please have a seat, three of you. Rahul, please. And もう日本人の人たちは知らないかもしれないけど、この3人がすごい有名人ですよ。もう毎日見るテレビでかもしれないので、すごく頭いいだから、もう私どうだって話したらいいかなわからないですけど、でもこれから頑張ります。よろしくお願いします。Please have a seat. Every day they are in front of the TV, and definitely Rahul is there, who is the one who is bringing people in front of the screen. And here, I dare to talk to them. So I take really, I would like to, please forgive me for all the mistake. And but I think I know a little bit about Japan. So I think no, I couldn't find anyone who knows better than me about Japan. So yeah, I'm going to do it. And first thing, what I would like to request you also, we would like to take 3 questions from the audience. So please think, whoever will be raising hand first will take the question. So think, I will come to you and you can ask 1 question to the people, the most intelligent 3 people here of India. So definitely, my favorite, Anandji. So Anandji, I don't have to introduce them. So Anandji, the first thing, what I want to ask about, the spirituality, which actually, being in Japan, I feel that most of the cultures of Japan went from India. But why we are so far when it comes to spiritual connection? I think we are very far, So what is the reason for that? We need more mics here. 2 more mics, please. Yes.
First of all, thank you so much, Nupur. Not just a great friend, but someone who's been just incredible, a wind of change and fostering Indo-Japanese relations. So thank you so much for this, and thank you to you and the other organizers for inviting me in such a amongst wonderful friends. And I did not tell my wife where I was going or where I was coming for this. I just showed her the left-hand side of the schedule. And she said, oh, is Japan involved in this? Because the timings were 1:42 to 1:47, 2:23 to 2:45, 2:72. So this is the reputation that Japan has, and it's just absolutely incredible to be sitting here amongst a family of people who carry forward such tremendous legacy. So once again, thank you, Nupur. I will possibly take 5 minutes, if you don't mind.
More than 30 seconds.
More than 30 seconds.
Yes.
Because perplexingly, the question that you actually asked me, the only time a Darwinian atheist like me is spiritual is in the evening when I've had a couple of... otherwise, I think it's something that I was thinking about while I was coming here, what to talk about, especially as I'm absolute novice when it comes to talking about spirituality. But I have to talk about something that's very close to me, and let me put a caveat there that, and dear Nupur would possibly know this, I am only ever invited to any place once. So,
I gave you a challenge.
Yes, so, very recently I was invited to a place that was discussing politics and beyond, and I said, forget about bashing the politicians. The people who should be bashed are the judges and the judiciary, because it's intensely corrupt, and there are 50 million cases that are pending. There are lakhs of cases that are 35 years old, and I didn't know that the person sitting next to me was a Chief Justice of Delhi High Court. So I profusely apologized to that, and I said, sir, I've already won one contempt of court case, please forgive me. So like that, I hope, in the hope that I might not be invited again, Nupur, I have to say something very frank. And that is, what do we take from this amazing relationship that we have with Japan? What do we learn from it? Previous speakers spoke about the glorious past and our associations with Japan, both ways that have worked in terms of learning from religion, from science, from culture. And I was thinking, yes, of course, we have so much to learn from the past, and it's a tragedy that we Indians don't know our own past, or to talk about the past that we've shared with so many wonderful countries. Yes, we have to learn from past. But something is more important than learning from the past as far as Japan is concerned. And I dare say, Nupur, it is learning from the future and the present Japan. And I think we would be failing in our association and friendship if we as Indians don't learn just two values that I feel Japan represents, Japan of the present represents, and that is courage and honor. And I think going forward, we as an Indian society really need to, if not imbibe those two virtues from Japan, at least seek lessons from it. Let me give you two examples of that. One of the most profound reforms that were ever undertaken in independent India were done 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago. They were the farm reforms, the 3 farm laws that were brought in by the Modi government. They would have catapulted us to middle-income economy within 10 years in a sector that was crying out for reforms. These 3 farm reforms, they promised wealth and prosperity to 250 million Indians. 44% of our ready labor force of 515 million is involved in agriculture, in a sector that contributes only 15% to our GDP. So, and these reforms were promised by every opposition party. Yet when the Prime Minister brought these reforms, they went up in arms and the whole nation came to a standstill. Highways were blocked, protests happened. And ultimately, after a year, the government buckled and it repealed those farm laws, which was a dark day. Where is the courage? I give you an example. The late Prime Minister Abe 3 times he resigned from his government because he said, these are the reforms I want to bring, and I'm going for re-elections. 3 times. And every time he was re-elected, and those reforms were brought in. That's the courage that I think we as a country, I'm not blaming any politician, because when Mr. Modi repealed it, any other politician in this country would have repealed it, possibly done the same. That courage is what we ask for. And finally, a couple of minutes left, I want to talk about the honor, which is so important. I don't go back to what Mishima did, a person and literary figure that I greatly admire. No, I'm talking about the honor of the present. And it may surprise you, but both countries, India and Japan, are currently wrecked by corruption scandals. Maybe 3 years old, 4 years old in our case, months old in the case of Japan. 10 Japanese ministers have already been asked to step down. There might be more indictments. The current Prime Minister of Japan has stepped down from his portion, his part of his party. He has apologized 3 times publicly to the Japanese people for what has happened. And it's all to do with party funding. It's all to do with the Japanese institutions have severely indicted sitting ministers of having indulged in corruption. The same thing happened when the Delhi High Court not just indicted but convicted the present government of having illegally taken donations through violating the FCRA laws. And what did our government do? Our government amended the FCRA Act going back to the era of emergency, making the indictment conviction of the High Court toothless. Nothing could be done then. No minister, no party could be convicted with a prison sentence. Now, something like this would have happened in any other civilized democratic country. The opposition would have come onto the streets demanding the resignation of the Prime Minister, saying, lock this parliament. How can this country run? It's been convicted by a High Court. But our opposition did nothing of the sort. And a very dear brother, sympathizer of the opposition is sitting right next to me when I say this. Something like this should have brought this government down to its knees. Nothing. Opposition did nothing. Why? Because the opposition also was convicted of the same scandal, of the same crime. The opposition helped this present party, governing party of Modi, to amend the FCRA law. And when we talk about the fact that the corruption scandal that is wrecking right now, Supreme Court has said that electoral bonds through which the parties gain funding can no longer be anonymous. The Congress, the opposition party, is saying, yes, look, the BJP has done wrong. This was the corruption that BJP has indulged in, without disclosing the fact that 10% of its own electoral funding has come from anonymous electoral bonds. It's like saying, so I'm absolutely making sure that I will never be invited again by my dear Nupur or by anyone in the parliament. But these are the 2 things, if we don't learn from the contemporary Japan, we can keep on learning from the Japan of the past, but I think these are the issues that are very important to us, for us to change for the better. Thank you.
Thank you, Anandji. Thank you. No, definitely. I think people really, they have enjoyed, because I think they were a little bit bored. So they enjoyed a lot. And tomorrow, you have given a lot of headlines for tomorrow. So, yeah, Mr. Ranganathan, Dr. Ranganathan has said those things. So, yeah, Tehseen, it is becoming a little bit political. What would you like to say? Like, what we can learn from Japan when it comes to what actually Anandji said? So now your challenge.
Check.
No, that's in here. Here, no.
Now I will have to say the opposition's mic is always switched off. But konnichiwa, namaskar, thank you so much for having me here. Thank you, Nupur.
You're welcome.
I don't really tell my wife where I go. She knows it.
Yeah, he tells his wife. Definitely, always.
Not just your wife, even Amit Shah knows where you.
Oh, we are lucky, by the way.
I don't know about my wife, he definitely knows. But jokes apart, thank you so much for having me here. And when you reached out and you said you were organizing this Connect India-Japan program and this Indo-Japanese conclave, it was absolutely an honor and delight, and immediately in that instant I said I will be here, because I see the tremendous hard work you do behind the fostering the relationship between these 2 great nations not just two great nations, but two great civilizations that have so much to offer to the world. And the Indo-Japanese partnership, a lot has been spoken by the Honorable Minister, by the DCM about the cultural ties. But even going further, the two great nations have so much to offer the globe. We share similar values of democracy, of tolerance, liberal values, of helping our people rise.
How about politics?
And politics, of course, politics. Democracy, I said democracy, that is politics. That is politics. And for me personally, my connection with Japan started with Japanese food, I must confess. I am a huge fan of Japanese food. I can live on Japanese food. I eat Japanese food perhaps 4 times a day. When my wife and I were pregnant, we also had our baby shower at a Japanese lounge. So we're very, and that's what drew me first to Japan. And when I went to Japan, I was mesmerized the first time I went to Japan. Here was a great civilization that had so much to offer the world. And as an Indian, when I came there, I realized so many things that we as India and the world can take. For example, the way people are treated with respect, the way there is cleanliness, the way there is, for example, if in a metro, nobody talks on the phone. These are such small things that you could learn from this country. And Japan has a partnership with my home city of Pune, so I got to interact with a lot of Japanese. And again, it is something that I could imbibe a lot of this culture. But also, interestingly, when I was in Japan, I realized that there is a word that the Japanese use for the sun and the moon, to respect the sun and the moon while speaking. It is very similar to Indian values. We pray to the sun, and that's what the minister also said in the Rising Sun Conclave. So it is shared values, the influence of Buddhism and Indian values on the culture. Your religion, the way you all practice your religious belief, the values you all bring in also coincide with Indian values, the values of the Indian culture, and of course the Buddhist traditions, especially during your funerals, the way you all look towards the afterlife. Again, that coincides with the Indian culture. So there is a tradition in Japan where it's believed the ancestors return to Japan.
Obon.
Yes, it's celebrated. Food is served. This is very close to Indian tradition, so that happens in India as well.
Exactly.
So these shared values, miles apart from two countries, and yet the bond that an average Indian feels very connected to Japan. It's not just about the Japanese technology, which as kids we grew up admiring, but it's just a cultural connection that cannot be defined. I think that's amazing. I don't want to make it too political, but I just will answer one question on the electoral bonds. Neither the BJP or the Congress can disclose who gave them the money, because that's the way of the electoral bonds. What the opposition is asking the government to do is asking the State Bank of India to disclose the names of the donors and to whom. That's how the quid pro quo will be established. So just for the record, yes, the opposition's also gotten money through electoral bonds. But for example, Anand, if you've given me money and I'm the opposition, I won't know technically you've given it. So therefore, the opposition cannot say it officially. It has to be through the medium of the banks, which were supposed to keep this information secret only with themselves. That's the difference. I don't want to make this political. I would like to make this spiritual and about cultural, because I don't want to make a political tutu-meme. That we'll reserve for Rahul's show, where you can ask for 30 seconds more.
Actually, people are really enjoying, and it's such a great platform that we all are friends, they are friends, and but they can just fight with each other, when it comes to issues. This is really wonderful, and thank you so much.
That's the basis of democracy.
Exactly.
You must passionately disagree with each other, but still, after that disagreement, sit together and have a cup of coffee or sake.
Yeah, maybe sake. Okay, over there, that is sake barrel. That is sake barrel, yeah. I think Rahul doesn't drink, so it doesn't attract him much. Okay, but still, sake is not considered as alcohol. You can just drink, it's a spiritual way also. You can give it to him. And then Rahul, when I, definitely, you all know Rahul. And I'm really grateful because he has a very big day today for his channel, but still he made time. And all of you. And really, we got late, actually. And I didn't know that we'll be so late. Thank you so much, Rahul, for staying back. And Rahul, since, you are into media, so why actually the Indian media doesn't cover Japan? And that is the reason I had to start Connect India Japan magazine, and we are starting the portal as well. Why we ignore Japan?
Well, thank you very much, first of all, for inviting me. The reason I wanted to be here is because I actually have quite an old connection with Japan. I did go there in my formative years. I was then the assistant editor in the Times of India. I used to write editorials for them. And I was about 27, 28 when I went there for the first time.
You're still young.
Well, I'm 49 now. So time has gone by. I'm talking about the year 2001. And I was invited there as by the Japanese embassy as, and in fact the Ministry of Foreign Affairs there, the MOFA, as one of the 25 young rising Indians from SAARC countries. So not only did Japan allow me to get a bird's eye view really of Japanese culture, but also get to know a large number of young minds from our neighborhood. And you know, those opportunities are quite rare. There are, of course, a large number of SAARC countries, and some of them don't see eye to eye. So it is difficult getting everyone on board and exchanging views in a fraternal, frank manner. So Japan left an indelible impression on me, and I wrote about it, actually. There's an article, and it was called Oh No, It's Japan, N-O-H, which is, of course, a art form in Japan, and I was talking about how the Japanese have evolved a dualism in the way they express themselves to the world. There is a very private Japan, and there is a very cosmopolitan Japan.
Exactly, true.
And that's much like the masks that are worn
Yes.
by no theater artists.
You really observed very well. Yeah.
And I wrote a little bit about that, but I just feel that Japan has brought to the conversation a term that is now used in India, and that is called strategic autonomy. The Japanese were practicing that for almost eons. So not only were they interlocuting with the West, but they also had interlocutors in the East. In fact, at sometimes you even had a problem where the Japanese were overbearing in the East.
True.
But that was a time and an era. But the fundamental, the quality that stands out about the Japanese is that pragmatism. And that is that pragmatism that India now has adopted in the way it is interlocuting with the wider world, which is on its own terms. So the Japanese always had a sense of self, which they very firmly laid down. It was for you to accept or reject. And even with their relationship with India, it's not always been an, upswing. There had been a low. In fact, Japan was...
Especially after Pokhran.
Exactly. One of the few countries, I think along with Canada and New Zealand, who imposed sanctions.
Yes.
And it took Shinzo Abe to come out and welcome India back into the nuclear fold.
2007, I think he did.
That's right.
Yeah.
So fundamentally, we've had hiccups.
Yes.
The problem with India is, and the reason I began with that preamble, is because we don't quite know where we want to be in this world. Whether we should be in the Eastern Hemisphere, whether we should be in the West, whether we should be Asian, whether we should be cosmopolitan, modernist, as Nehru wanted us to be. We're still figuring ourselves out. And a nation that has a problem identifying itself will not be able to, at any level, bridge the perceptorial as well as the cultural.
You're talking about the India, right?
Yes.
So we are more attracted to West than the East.
So now we've come up with a term, which, as I said, was patented in the Meiji times in Japan, which is that we are non-West. We're not anti-West. We're not pro-West. We're non-West. Today I'm seeing Dr. Jayashankar, who is, of course, married to a Japanese lady, using that term in international fora. It took us 77 years to realize that we don't have to actually have a foot here or there. And I think it was the Shah's the Affairs who was talking about the fact that there are such few Indian students.
True, very true.
700, I think, was 1,500. 1,500, can you imagine? 1,500 Indian students over, what is our Near East.
Because we always choose to waste.
Well,
to go
that's
to
because, and this is again a point that one must bring up. The Japanese didn't lose a sense of self, even when the West came to their shores. We
Yes.
lost our sense of self. We wanted to become almost white.
True.
And that is what we still valorize.
Rahul, this is the point, actually.
And the media, unfortunately,
Yes.
has been led by a bunch of people who are almost apologetic to the world about our culture and our ethos. And they always seem to put on a higher pedestal the Western way.
True, very true.
So I think fundamentally that's the real issue. That is the reason why the media in India has never looked east. Even though we have such deep cultural ties, moorings, and now strategic as well as financial interests shared.
Exactly.
We still look to the West.
True. Even the Japanese media also, we have to blame them also. We have like media people also from Japanese media. We have JETRO head here, the Japan Foundation head here. All these many CEOs from Japanese companies are here. So they will understand, like even the senator comes to India, the Times of India, there is just a big headline. When the former prime minister is coming to India, Japanese, there is like somewhere small they're writing. So this is very sad. So this is, I think we all have to, because I think 3 of you are from media, personality. So I think we have to work on those, and because media plays a really big role when it comes to relationship. It can build, it can ruin. So I don't want to speak much. I really want to go to the audience, because as they talked about democracy, the both countries are democratic countries. So who would like to ask questions? Okay, Mr. Deshmukh, let me just, can you please take this mic to him and.
Thank you very much. My name is Siddharth Deshmukh. I am a current president of Indo-Japan Business Council. Question asked is valid about media, that why Indian media doesn't cover. I will stick to India side. There is Japan story also, but maybe not I may not want to comment on that. If you are in charge, what you would like to cover about Japan in media? My question is for all three, and I would like to have your perspective. What you want to tell people, what you want to cover. I'm not talking about a Sunday column.
No, that's a good one. That's a good one. Look, I think today, when we talk about shared interests, and I think General Saab here, G.D. Bakshi, will illuminate us a little later in the evening about the very significant and important recalibration that is taking place in what is known as the IOR, or the Indian Ocean region. And I think that story is not being told effectively or informatively enough in the Indian media. What is told really are the cultural trends, and again, the softer aspects of the relationship. I think the hard points of convergence are often ignored. And I think it is those that are absolutely emblematic of the geostrategic churn that is taking place. Because if you don't start understanding the points of convergence on those issues, on the military geostrategic issues, the business relationships that are going forward, the way the three are triangulated with China, for instance, and to a lesser extent Russia, and of course, to the greatest extent America, I don't think we will do justice to the future of this relationship, let alone the present. I think that's one of the reasons why just recently an anthology of books was released. In fact, an anthology was released on Mr. Shinzo Abe. And about 9 or 10 journalists wrote individual chapters on different aspects of the Shinzo Abe connect with India. and why that was a transformative relationship for India. But it took academic writing and journalists writing for a very niche audience to basically demystify the subterranean bonds that actually need to be really looked at. I think this is the most significant relationship for India going forward.
Thank you so much. I hope he already answered. You want 3 of them? Okay. Okay. Maybe, yeah, if you can answer. He wants 3 of you to answer that question.
So Rahul spoke very articulately and passionately about India and Japan's shared interests in both, and our common interests. Of course, General Saab, there we're going to talk about Quad, we're going to talk about the India-Japanese strategic partnership. We have alliances based on in the South Pacific and what the future holds. But I think for me, what I find very fascinating about Japan, and that's when the first time I went there, was to realize the empathy Japanese have for others. And I think it's called mono no avre. I don't know how to pronounce it very well, but mono no avre. It's one of the things that, and I can give an example. When the nuclear issue happened in Japan and your nuclear plant had water that came in after the tsunami, I read this amazing story where the senior citizens or the older workers who were health workers volunteered to go in there and clean it up so that the younger workers do not suffer from radiation. I think that the ability to give so much, it really, really inspired me, because when you see that sort of culture in our nation, I think that is something that is fascinating. And again, in India, it is very Indian as well, because Indians by nature are very empathetic towards others. The other thing that really inspires me about Japan, and I think that if we can imbibe this, and this I learned in Pune, where we have the Indo-Japan partnership, is the Kaizen, if I pronounce that correctly.
Kaizen.
Yeah, the Kaizen. Yeah, so again, you know, to keep on improving, and I think we as Indians, I can speak for my nation, because I see this nation, it has to play a significant role in the next 40, 45 years. And my goal as somebody who's very politically involved is how can we not just end poverty, but improve the lives of our people. And Kaizen is one method to do that, to seek improvement within ourselves. So these are the 2 areas that I think that if Indians can learn from Japan. Very often, a word is used that India is the next superpower, is the next great power. I see my country being the next great partner, the next super partner. And if India can be a super partner and a great partner to Japan, I think together these 2 nations can really transform our side of the world and also spread influence on other sides of the world.
Oh, thank you so much. So Anandji, only 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think one aspect in media that we've almost totally neglected is talk about the amazing science that is happening in Japan. And I don't mean, I deliberately don't want to include technology in it, because Japan is known for technology, for robotics, for trends there. But very few people know about, at least Indians know, the amazing strides that Japan has been quietly taking in the fields of natural products, chemistry, and drug discovery as far as Japan is concerned. In the field of malaria, for example, we have Professor Shailja Singh in the audience, and she would know the tremendous amount of drug discovery that is going on in Japan right now. So yes, Rahul, when you said that media in India is guilty for, if I can use the phrase, aping the West and talking about the West, I think as far as science is concerned, not to talk about technology, but science and fundamental science, we're as guilty.
Yeah, that's right. So how much language is barrier? My question for 3 of you, maybe very short. Sorry.
Check.
Hello. Maybe I can use this. So do you think language is the barrier between 2 countries? Otherwise, you would have gone to Tokyo University.
No, I don't think language is a barrier for any communication. It goes with human relationships as with any other relationships, I think. And I don't put a lot of emphasis on the language. I think much more important to protect the language is to protect what has been written in it. That's been this thing. So, you know, it's just the beauty in diversity that, you know, Japanese and, I mean, we ourselves, in India, we have hundreds of languages and thousands of dialects. So, you know, to say that if that's a barrier, I don't think if within India that's not a barrier, then, you know, between India and Japan, that should not be. That's
Okay.
I agree.
You agree. So, Tehseen, your area is really not only media, but you speak about everything. So how about food? Do you think food can be, the Japanese food only limited to some elite of India?
अरे ऐसे मत बोलो मैं कहाँ elite हूँ
अरे आप तो क्या बोले
ऐसे बोलोगे
अरे अभी आनंद जी बोलेंगे
This guy is saying he's not an elite. He's wearing a 55 lakh watch right now.
पूरा बोल खोल दिया
He started his sentence with Amit Shah following. He's now giving out the price of my watch.
Is that the enforcement directorate? Yes, yeah, I want to report some.
Do I have a lawyer here who can get me out of bail?
Few lawyers
I
are
have
there.
anticipatory bail right now. I mean, anticipatory bail.
The breaking news is not that I have called up enforcement directorate. The breaking news is that by evening, Tehseen will be joining the BJP.
Oh God! Tehseen, now
And this is not...
Both Poonawallas will be in BJP.
But if I do join the BJP, I'll have to give away the watch.
okay, then you have to give him another watch.
But ठीक है अब मेरा समय ठीक
Just
चल रहा
don't
है.
deposit it with the SBI.
Just to deposit with the SBI. But jokes apart, yeah, I'm coming to food, but before food, I think one thing you said, and that's, I think India can play a partnership again with Japan, because Japan is taking massive strides in AI, and that's going to be the future. And it is something that as somebody who follows AI very, very intensively, I think that the next 20 years is very scary as an Indian parent, because I don't know what I should teach my one-year-old son that will be relevant 20 years from now. I think one of the key factors that India can play a role, not just in Japan, but other nations in developing AI, including in India, is to teach humanity to AI, because as AI technology develops, humanity will be a very important subject for AI to understand and to act upon. And that is India's core competence. So if India can teach humanity and physics to AI, so if you have an AI-enabled robot that's serving you, it should not fall into the water because it will drown. I think physics and humanities are two subjects India and Japan can partner on in the field of AI and apply that science to make the world's problems easier. But coming to what you said, food. Yeah, I am very, very passionate about Japanese food. I love Japanese food. And I don't think that it is limited now to a few elite. I do agree, it is still limited. Japanese food is totally taken over, at least in the metros. You will always have people who go out very often, will do about once a month Japanese restaurant or a Japanese lounge. It is that people have taken to that palate, but Japanese food is more than just sushi. It is a lot more, or more than just teppanyaki. I think food is a great way to connect. They say a way to a man's heart is through his stomach, or a woman's heart is through her stomach. And Japanese food is so palatable and really so nice. Also, I think that another area where Japanese food can come in is in the area of proteins. And this is something that I've been talking about, and Anand, as a scientist, you will perhaps help me. India is a very, very protein deficient country. We're very, very protein deficient. Maybe with Japan, we can come out with easier food, maybe vegetarian protein that can be easily digestible, because Indians today do have a protein deficiency, as a result of which they have several health issues. And I think that's another area of protein research that India and Japan can tie up in via food or via superfoods or whatever. But Japanese food, definitely, that's a great cultural bridge.
Exactly, and we have also a Japanese restaurant owner here. Ooh. So that is...
So dinner's Honda. On the house for everybody.
Honda-san, hi.
So the dinner's
please
on the house.
Invite three of them. So yes, actually, yeah, you can go. He would love to invite you, and they are distributing Japanese snacks right now. They're distributing Japanese snacks, so you will get it. Oh yeah. So please make a small point.
Because I think Tehseen made a very important point about food, and I would say. The fusion of food with science is something very important. And here I have to say that, for example, there's been a lot of logjam about the genetically modified organisms, about the food debate in India. In Japan, GMO is prohibited except for having genetically modified the color of a flower. I think that's, other than that, I think food, it's not allowed. So maybe with Japan, we have to figure out how are we going to feed 1.5 billion Indians going forward into the future. I think that's a very important debate that politicians are just not having in our country.
Not just feed healthily and with proteins and minerals.
Yes. So I think that debate needs to happen.
Exactly, that needs to happen. And Anandji, actually, you said that 55 lakhs watch. You know, this is 2,000 watch. What should I do?
This is also 2,000 rupees, first copy.
So yeah. So Rahul, actually, again, I think, where do you see the Japanese and Indian media? Where are you, like, how do you visualize from now onwards the future of Japanese-Indian media?
Well, I don't think, I don't think we should be looking at confluence there. I think media sort of is led by where it sees its audiences are, to be honest. So I think you were talking about why is it that we don't have, or how can we, I mean, it strikes me as very odd that we've only in the last 15 years coined this term look east policy.
Look east, yes.
I mean, it is so bizarre.
True, very true.
It tells you everything.
True.
I don't think that Japan, which is, a rimland country, has something called a look east policy or a look west policy. They have a look at Japan policy and look at what Japan can do for the world and you can do for Japan policy. Here we are still pivoting around our axis, wondering which direction we should be looking at. So language is not a barrier at all. It is the shackles, the blinkers that we have put on our own selves. And look, I'm not going to be presumptuous enough to speak for Japan, but certainly I can speak with a little bit of authority about our foreign policy. The very fact that we had to come up with a coinage like this to encourage all of us to begin to look at a point of reference which is so intrinsically tied with our past.
True.
I mean, at one time, India was controlling 30 to 35% of the global GDP. We were the principal exporters, not just of hardware, but culture. And that's why, right up till Japan and beyond, you have, I mean, if you just look at the longitudes, even more west of, even more east rather, of Japan, are countries that have been influenced by our Hindu way, our Hindu civilization. So it tells you a lot. These are missed opportunities.
So
it's got nothing to do with language.
We are expecting, so then, Look Japan on your channel.
Yeah, I mean, as I'm trying to say, it's not as simplistic as that.
I know.
I think we just have to create the architecture, the news architecture for that to happen. I don't think that's something that can organically take shape. I think it has to be a conscious decision.
I think Rahul said something very important, but taking from what he said about the export of the Hindu and Indian way of life, Japan's again is working on quantum, and it's something that it's very proudly, it speaks about quantum mechanics, quantum physics, and a lot of this knowledge of quantum mechanics, quantum physics, the metaverse, etc., comes from the Hindu way of life.
True.
So again, India can partner with Japan out there, and the two nations, because whichever country develops a quantum computer will control or will dominate world economy. That's a given, and world military. So there's a race for quantum computing, and India has the ancient history. I think partnering with Japan there and to develop that, I think that is an area we should look at, and that is another export that the Hindu way of life can do to Japan.
Wonderful. Yeah, they definitely deserve. And last, I would like to, Dr. Ranganathan, for you words at last.
No, I think everything that could be said has been said. I just kind of lament sometimes that there are some things that everyone can see and yet we don't follow. And I gave a couple of examples of what we can learn from Japan. I think the things that moving forward, what we can do, I think Tehseen, is we have this uncanny ability to ignore the low-hanging fruits, And to give you one example, and I don't want to be a perennial, contrarian or something, but these are things that hurt, especially because our country is at an inflection point and Japan is there as a true friend. So in one sense, I mean, a city like Paris attracts 43 million foreign tourists every year. India gets 11 million tourists a year. Something like city like Paris gets 4 times as much. You know, something like a city like Bodh Gaya should be the Vatican of the East. We should be attracting 400 million Buddhists around the world. You know, I mean, Japan would love to collaborate with us, but you know, the yearly municipal budget of Bodh Gaya city is less than the production budget of the failed movie Adipurush. Less than 500 crores.
Next time we have to invite the Indian tourism also. Here.
I think that is something that is a given. I think Japan, we have to invite Japan to take part, and it's not just, you know, to see it as export-import, Tehseen. It's one.
True.
Bodh Gaya is as much Japanese as it is Indian.
True.
And this is, I think, there is much truth to what Dr. Ranganathan is saying. It's a story of missed opportunities. And I think what we're now seeing, of course, much to the chagrin of the opposition, is the development of some of our important, you know, religious centers.
Yes.
So we are beginning to see and realize the potential of pilgrimage tourism. And that is something that has come again, like the Lookie's policy, very late to us.
Yeah.
Just one last thing, and I completely agree that you say about the tourism industry, and we could collaborate, but there is...
Something is wrong. He's repeatedly agreeing with me.
Yeah, because I don't want you to take away my watch and make me
no
join...
longer invite us to the debate.
I don't want you to take away my watch and make me join the BJP and make me deposit it in SBI locker
So
for it to be good for
I'm going to
lordships.
start a show for, you know, from India to Japan, and you three will be there, definitely.
But I think what India can learn from Japan, and I'll tell a small experience when I was in Tokyo, I wasn't sure on what way to go, and I asked a local, of course using Google Translate. It just knew at that time, it was not spoken, it was the white. And not only did he walk me to the cab, he paid the cab for me to go. That is the hospitality of Japan. Yeah, so
Was that to the airport? He was making sure you leave the country?
No, it was making sure that I go for a good Japanese meal, one that you don't have. So it was actually in the way into Japan. He was actually inviting me. So I think when you speak about tourism, we also need to build that, welcome our guests in, and that is Atiti Devo Power. So we should do that and I think collaborate further.
Exactly. So I think our audience is, you know, just last question. This is last. Yes, please. Yeah, you can say. Okay, here you go.
Okay, thank you. For taking away from Rahul Shivshankar ji, I think we have moved up from the look taste. Well, we're doing actually the ACist, but one of the ambassadors told that it's actually the marchingist. And I would like to address both of Dr. Ranganathan. For my question, is it about the food security? We're talking about the culinary diplomacy and the food, but a huge, mass in India is Tehseen Bhai already said about the protein and deficiency. So how both the countries work on food security and also fertilizers. That's one of the essential, especially after the Ukraine war. Thank you.
I think one of the great leaps, I would say, that this government and Mr. Modi doesn't get ample credit for is the amazing indigenous technology that somehow the world, it's not been exported, is neem-coated urea. I mean, I belong to a generation where the biggest adulteration used to be in milk. They would simply add urea to milk, and half of milk, or possibly more, I mean, I don't know the exact figures, used to be adulterated. With the neem-coated, indigenously developed, that thing is passed. So as far as fertilizer is concerned, we have taken this huge stride, and I think other nations can learn from it. But as I said, as far as food security is concerned, unless we move as a country, our politicians gather that courage to not be shackled by the middlemen. That is the current situation, where just today's news, Rahul, there are 60 million tons above the buffer stock as far as rice and wheat is concerned. Today's news. And who's eating it? Rats and mice. They're storing in godown. We don't need so much of wheat and rice, but we're producing it because the politicians keep on giving MSP for it. The farmers keep on producing it because the government is a captive buyer of that rice. So we have to move forward. GMO is one option. I'm not saying it's the only option. As a scientist, yes, I'm partial towards it. But we have to explore that. And as there is no better partner than Japan to explore such issues.
I think, yeah. So, thank you. So, I think, I feel really sorry, after 21 years, my Japanese sense is I'm feeling so sorry, making them wait, and everybody, all the people are waiting here. So, thank you so much.
I have one question for you now.
Okay.
Will I be invited again?
What do you think? Yes or no?
Oh, okay.
Then you'll be invited again, again and again. Actually, I personally is very grateful to Anandji. He's a wonderful human being.
Anandji.
No.
I'm very upset. You're not inviting me.
I was just going to you, and he's my dearest friend. He's like unconditionally always there. So it is like I call Anandji, there is Tehseen, okay, I need it, kind of thing, So there is, the Hakse in Hindi. So I talk to him Hakse. And Rahul is I'm a fan of Rahul, definitely.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And so we have small memento. So our sponsor, SNG partner, if you can come and just give these mementos to our, yes, please. Honorable panelist, yes. Thank you so much. I'm so honored today.
Thank you.
Rahul.
Thank you so much.
Please come with the mementos. And our honorable panelist, please give it to him. So he will give it. Yeah, so to Mr. Rahul Shivshankar, and this is something. Yeah, you have to take photos randomly. Oh yeah, अच्छा ठीक है. And Tehseen Poonawalla, डर के मारे हम फोटो ले रहे हैं आपसे. And Tehseen Poonawalla, please, the mementos. Yeah, just when you walk like this, okay? Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Please come this way. This way. Yes. Thank you. And definitely to Dr. Anand Ranganathan. He is actually scientist, though you see him on TV. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. And if you can, just three of you can. This is my dream come true. This is my design. This is actually, I wanted this to happen. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming, spending time and enlightening, and they really enjoyed, audience. Thank you so much. Thank you.